Welcome to our weekly Mitzvah Shabbos program. This parsha we read this morning is called Parshas Vayechi. Even though it speaks about Yaakov's death, but it's called Vayechi. Why? As Rashi says, the Gemara says, Yaakov Avinu lo meis. Yaakov did not die. Ma zara b'chayim, avu b'chayim. If you left over children that are alive, so Yaakov is alive. So Yaakov lo mes. That doesn't say by Avram, because Avram had a child Ishmael. It doesn't say by Yitzchak lo mes, because he had a son Esav. But Yaakov is zara b'chayim. When a person leaves over children, they're alive, so they are alive. They're alive. And as it says, Tzadikim b'misoson nikru chayim. Tzadikim, when they die, they call life. Rishoyim b'chayim nikru meisim. Rishoyim, when they're alive, they call death. As the Rebbe Rashab, before he passed away, he said, Ich gehe in Himmel und ich sovim lo sich varaich. I'm going to heaven and the ksovim I'm leaving. He said it because what makes the Rebbe alive? When we learn the Rebbe's Torah, when we learn the Rebbe's ksovim, when we learn the Rebbe's maimorim, sichas, then the Rebbe is alive. And the same thing goes also with people. When people leave children, that's why I once said, first comes Boneh. It should be Chaya, should be first life. If a person has good children, that's a whole life. Then Chaya, then the life is a life. And then Parnasa, you'll have Parnasa. So this parsha is called Vayechi. When a tzaddik passes away, it's not a tragedy. It's a transition. He goes from one place to the other place. As the story from the Frierdiker Rebbe, as I think I mentioned the story, and there's a letter that Rabbi, the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote to Rabbi Mindel, his own handwriting also. And he wrote, he was about the interrogation with the KGB. The Frierdiker Rebbe, they took him, everybody had a gun by him, and the Frierdiker Rebbe told him, whoever has one world and two gods are afraid of this toy. He called the gun a toy. But whoever has two worlds and one God is not afraid of this toy. In other words, now he is here in this world, and then he's going to the other world. It's a transition. It's not a tragedy. And I think that the Rebbe once mentioned that the Frierdiker Rebbe was in Eilam Haba, even in this world. Now the transition, lav dafke by only a tzaddik. Every religious Jew, a Jew who is a shomer Torah mitzvahs, his hashpah, his influence, after he passes away, is even more than before. Because if he is a shomer Torah mitzvahs, the Rebbe is speaking about every yid. He is a neshama in a guf, in a body, and he's limited. After he passes away, he's unlimited. So his hashpah can be more than before. But this is called alive. We can learn from him. And this reminds me, when the Rebbe went to Bi Menachem Ovel, the old Satmar Rebbe in 1953 or 54, and by the Nichum Avelim, the Satmar Rebbe asked the Rebbe a question. I heard there was somebody else, but I was told it was the Satmar Rebbe. But it doesn't matter, but this is the answer from the Rebbe. He asked him, why do we say Hamokim Yinachim Eschem? The place, Mokim goes to Eibishter. The Eibishter is called a place. Because there's not, in the world, there's not a place that Eibishter is not there. So it says Hamokim Yinachim Eschem, the place. Why not HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Or another name? He said, yes, the Rebbe. So the Rebbe answered him, every Yid has a place in this world. A Mokim. Now that person passed away. So that place is empty. But there's no emptiness. That place is the Nechama. The place is the Nechama. Before, when the body was in a goof, I was limited. Gvul. Now, since it's not in a goof, so that place is Menachem. We're learning out from that person now. He can learn much more than when the person was alive. So when the Eid is a Torah mitzvah, Shami Torah mitzvahs, you pass away. It's not a tragedy. The Rabbi asks, we see tzaddikim, we see the Rabbeinu HaKodesh, I think, he cried before he passed away. Why did he cry? If it's only a transition, so why did he cry? It's not a tragedy. He cried not because he's going to Gan Eden. He cried because he won't be able to put on film. He won't be able to do a mitzvah. He won't be able to mitzvahs maisius. That's what bothered him. But not that. That's so life by a tzaddik, by a Fruma Yid is a munah, faith, avon, yirah, love, and fear for God. So since all Yidden come from Yaakov Avinu, Loika Avram, that Yishmael came, not like Yitzchak, that Esav, but everybody tzaddikim, we see, Take, that in the whole Chumash Bereishis, we can learn out a lesson from Yaakov Avinu more than from Avram and Yitzchak. How do we see it? Bereishis and Noach, two parshas, happened within a time about almost 2,000 years. I'm sure more things happened in that time. More things happened, the Chatei Tzadaz, the Mabel of Noach, Cain and Hevel, in 2,000 years, almost. But since it's not negated to us as a lesson, so the Torah doesn't tell you anything. That's two parshas within a period of almost 2,000 years. Then the parsha Lech Lecha, Vayera and Chaisara happened in a period of 100 years. Because Avram Avinu was born, Avram Avinu Lech Lecha, the Torah says he was 75 years old. He passed away, he was 175. These three parshas basically speak about Avram Avinu. So the three parshas we can learn a lesson. Other things happened. But the Torah doesn't tell you because there's nothing we can learn out. Only what the Torah says. Then comes Toldos, Yitzchak Avinu. He lived 180 years. So we learn from Toldos in our everyday life from the Parsha Toldos, from Yitzchak. Then Vayetze, Vayishlach, Vayeshev, Miketz, Vayigash, Vaychi, 6 parshas happen in a period of maybe 60 years, around there. 60 years, 6 parshas. Why? Because there is more that we can learn from Yaakov Avinu than from Avram and Yitzchak. 6 parshas. Yaakov is called the Bechir Shebe'avos. He was the chosen. Because he left over children, all tzaddikim. Ma zaro b'chaim, avu b'chaim. And that's why we see 6 parshas in a period of 60 years. Now, all Yidden are called Yisrael. Afa Pishachote Yisrael who. And we say also, Poisha Yisrael, Moli Mitzvahs Karimin. Somebody asked the Rebbe once, a Rebbe asked the Rebbe, if it's a Poisha Yisrael, how can it be Moli Mitzvahs Karimin? So the Rebbe says, I'll ask you also a question. If it's Moli Mitzvahs Karimin, how can it be a Poisha Yisrael? So V'amech Kulam Tzadikim, and we don't know who is higher, lower. We're all tzaddikim. So Baal Tshuva says, since this is Mitzvah Shabbos, so I want to end off here with a personal story of a Baal Tshuva. It's Mitzvah Shabbos. I'll end off with a personal story. I was in my wife and I, we went to a bris in Long Beach, New York. Somebody. I was sitting, I'll make a bekitzer. I was sitting across me was sitting a Yid. He asked me, are you a Lubavitcher? I said, yeah. So he tells me, I'll tell you something. I wasn't religious. I wasn't frum. And my wife, we were married years when my wife didn't have children. 14 years, I think, 15 years. She wanted a child, didn't have children. So I went to doctors and they said they can't. Somebody came to me and said to me, why don't you go to a Rebbe? I didn't believe in Rebbes. I don't believe. And he didn't believe. He said he didn't want to go. It took him weeks until he convinced him to go to any Rebbe. So he says, who go? So he says that there are 3 Rebbes in New York. You can go to either one you want, or you can go to all 3 of them. And it took him a long time. I was convinced. He took him to the Satmar Rebbe, the old Satmar Rebbe, and he came in, asked him for a bracha. So Satmar Rebbe opened his drawer. That's what he tells me, and he took out a kameya. Kameya means like a piece of cloth like big as this, maybe smaller, a cloth sewed around, inside very hard, and he said, you should hold it in your pocket all the time whenever you go out, except Shabbos and Yom Tov. Shabbos and Yom Tov, you cannot carry this. But you have to tell me that you're going to have, it's a kamei, he gave him. He says, but don't open it. So while I was sitting there, this was years later, I said, do you still have it? He says, yeah. He took it out of his pocket. I saw it. A kameya, a piece of cloth, sewed around, hard. He says, I always carry it. I don't know what this is. Then he took him to the Bobover Rebbe, the old one. So he gave him a yarmulke. He says, where are yarmulke? Anyways, then he went to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he says. I went to the Rebbe. So the Rebbe asked me a lot of questions. He says, he's an interest. He opened his drawer and he gave me a parrot film. And he says, you put on film every single day. And the Eibishter will help you. Anyways, after a year, he says he had a girl. This was years ago. His girl now is probably 5-6 years old. That's all he has. He says to me, do you want to see the girl? I said, sure. So he took me to his wife and as a snoshim. And he says, this is the girl. So I told his wife, I heard the story with you. He says, yes. So I asked his wife, who did the miracle? Did the Satmar Rebbe did the miracle? Or did the Bobover? Or did the Lubavitcher? She says, Rabbi, I don't know who did the miracle. But I'll tell you one thing. This piece of cloth, maybe it's holy. He always has it in his pocket. I don't know what it is. He holds it. A yarmulke, he tries to eat with a yarmulke. But I'll tell you one thing. He goes to shul every single morning. And he puts on tefillin every single morning because the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave him that. The miracle, I don't know. Maybe the Satmar Rebbe, maybe the Lubavitcher Rebbe. But the Lubavitcher Rebbe changed he became completely about tshuva. He goes to shul now and he was to tefillin. So here we see that every Yid, we don't know, every Yid, Afal Pishachoto, Yisrael who, and they become a Vabich Kulam Tzadikim. So we all come from Yaakov Avinu. So Mazara B'chaim, Avu B'chaim. So when people leave over children, but they have to be a Dugma Chaya, the parents have to be a Yaakov Avinu. Like we say, Kabed es Avicho, honor the father that is within you. Then the children will already learn from you. And this is the lesson of this week. In Mitzvah next week we'll continue our weekly program. Thank you.